Oh, thanks for coming in today, Lisa.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm Michelle Peat and this is Lisa McKimm. And when I thought of who you as my listener need to hear from, I instantly thought of Lisa McKimm. So Lisa is my longtime friend, she's a mentor, and she's been a great role model. And actually, you were the one who first introduced me to the possibilities of respectful parenting. And that's really what we're going to hear more about today, eh? So, I'm just going to hand it over to you, Lisa, to let me know, let my listener know about you and what you do, and yeah, whatever it is you want to share about who you are and what you do.
Cool, thank you. The first thing I always say when I get asked about myself is that I'm a mum of 4 and a grandmother of 8, because that's the centre of my universe, um, and I do the work that I do for them. And when I was very first beginning this work with parents, I was just doing this as a learner who wanted to be stronger in my parenting. That was my incentive way back then. So, about 35 years ago, I began training to run classes with parents, and it just blossomed over time. So, over the last 35 years, what I would say I've done is classes for parents, worked one to one with parents in their home, in my workspace, or now increasingly online ever since COVID hit, and we all got used to doing things online. And I discovered you can actually do great work online with people.
Yeah.
Um, and I love doing group work with conferences and training courses. So there's a lovely mixture of things, but it all comes down to how do parents have great relationships with their kids.
Yeah, for sure, eh? Like the how-tos, because sometimes when you're in the midst of it, you're just sort of working on autopilot, and sometimes the autopilot isn't as hopeful or as kind as we would like our
Yeah.
autopilot to be. And that's when I came along to you originally to do a parenting course. So yeah, my autopilot wasn't so great.
I still remember, Michelle, little things though that you would come out with that like just pinged for me magically. I love the way that you would have found something. Like I still remember, I don't know if I've told you this. I remember you talking to your kids about why you didn't want them to watch Shortland Street when they were younger. And all their friends were watching it at school. And you said, no, there's just too much heartbreak in it. And that was your explanation. And the kids just accepted that. And I just thought it was such a beautiful way of setting a boundary.
Oh,
Mm.
funny. Yeah, so that would be about 23 years ago or something.
See, you're stuck in my mind all that time with that little story.
Yeah, so we're both grandmas now.
Yeah.
Very neat part of life to be into. So people come to you for different things to do with their families. So, like, are there any obvious standout subjects that bring people through your doors, or who for people who try and find you online?
Well, I guess the one thing that they've all got in common is that they're worried about something. And so the topics that they would come in and want to talk about most often are relationships. So that could be parents' relationship with the children or any one of the children. It could be relationships between the kids and their brothers or sisters. It could be relationships between their kids and other kids at school. So relationship stuff would be a big thing. It could be around battles. That would be the second biggest reason that people come to see me. That the arguments are turning kind of feral, and they just don't want that kind of Wild West in their home. And so they come to get ideas about how to tame it all. And then the third thing I would say, if we were going to trim this down to 3 big topics, would be anxiety. I cannot believe the number of kids who are struggling with anxiety. Often they have parents who've also got anxiety, but it doesn't have to be connected like that. But it's crippling. it's totally crippling for them. So I'm seeing a lot more kids with anxiety. Yeah.
So, what do you provide or offer parents or the kids who are living with anxiety? Is there something that you do specifically, or is there a number of things, or what do people get from you?
Well, it's a range and it's different for every single person who comes through the door.
Mm.
So if I've got, for instance, let's say there's young girls, I might talk to them. I always will talk to a parent first on the phone, and sometimes I'll have the parent come in first and see me. But it could be that if they believe in fairies, the first thing I'll do is I will walk them through my fairy garden, and there's often a little fairy house which with an opening door where a chocolate or something is being left for the kids. So if you can make it, I do not want kids or teens to feel like they got sent to somebody because they were broken or needed fixing. I just want it to be a really friendly thing, a bit like going to Auntie's house for a chat. And and obviously, you know, if I had a teenage boy, I wouldn't be taking him for a walk through the fairy garden. But we might sit in my garden and burn rubbish in the outside fire pit while we're talking. We might play drafts or checkers or no, not checkers. What do you call it? Tic tac toe, noughts and crosses while we're talking. So it's different for everybody who comes in. But my biggest things are if somebody's got anxiety, I'll chat to them on the phone before they come, like if it's a child, um, because I want them to hear my voice and to hear that I sound kind and relaxed about the idea of coming in, because it can be terrifying for kids who have anxiety. So I want to be reassuring. I want to ask them, what are the things that you'd be most worried about coming to see somebody? Is there anything? And then I can allay those fears on the spot before they come. And then when they get here, if I know that they're coming, I'll usually keep a lookout and I'll walk out to their car to meet them and walk them in. Because sometimes they walk from the car to the front door and through into the workspace. That can be nerve wracking. So anything that can help allay those fears, I'll do.
So, in person, or is that online as well?
Yeah, well, I can do that online. I'd rather work with teens if I can for a first session at the very least. I'd rather have them come in because it's more of a real relationship connection. But if they live too far away and there's no services that the families want to engage with, or just no services locally, then absolutely I'll find a way to do something along those lines, but online with them, something that really relaxes them, maybe joke around a lot, um, bring a joke, you know, anything that will help them feel it's okay to do, to start opening up and to laugh. Because if we can get a bit of that at the beginning, and we're set for doing something magical afterwards.
So, what some of them that sort of magic look like?
Well, it can be a number of things. It would be, it's hugely around relationship building so that a child or a teen feels safe enough to talk about what it is that is worrying them. Some kids feel a huge sense of responsibility in their families and haven't said anything to anybody because they don't want to worry them, or they might get somebody into trouble, or they might be seen as difficult. So there's a lot of, it's really important that we kind of figure it out together. And sometimes once you've figured it out, it suddenly doesn't seem quite such a big thing to handle. It'll just become overwhelming for them.
Mm.
So we can work on things around solutions that could work. And my thing is, whether I'm working with teens or the parents, I just think of it as a series of conversations where they're going to discover how clever they are. So I want even little people to be able to feel like they came up with the idea or that they were part of the solution, so that they can feel really capable and confident about that when they leave here.
And if anyone can get that out of people, you can do it. I honestly, I cannot tell you how many times I've seen Lisa McKimm weave her magic with people, and they will walk away just feeling so good about themselves. So yeah, you've definitely you've got the love, you've got the skill, and you bring it all together so well. And
It is so good, and you'd know this from your work, seeing people leave looking so relieved and lighter.
yeah.
It's a real privilege to be part of that process. I love it.
So do you work with the adults, the parents, and the children together, or is it a separate work, or how do you do your family coaching?
It's really dependent on what the family needs. So I'll always start with the grown-ups because I never want the grown-ups to be talking about the kids in front of them. But I need to figure out what the parents see first.
Hmm.
And I don't always need to work with the kids. Sometimes it's just really clear that I could help them see this differently and approach it differently. And when they do, it's going to go away. But sometimes it is about the kids. Like, for instance, if the kids have anxiety, it's a benefit for them to come in as well.
Hmm.
We might do some stuff by ourselves. I'd never say to a child, come in by themselves until they felt comfortable for a parent to leave them. Because
Okay.
quite often kids will say, no, I want my mum with me, or sometimes their dad. Uh, and then if they're looking really comfortable in it, I will have said to the parent in advance, hey, look, if they're looking great, I might ask if you feel like going off for a coffee and leave us to do the last little bit of the session together and then come back and join us and we'll tell you what we did. And so it's hugely intuitively led, that part of the work. You just have to be reading the people on the couch and
Yeah.
once
I
the
guess
kids
it's family life too, isn't it? Like,
totally. But once the kids are happy, if they want to come in and see me by themselves or they want to see me online by themselves, that's exactly what they do.
if you were to give the parent watching this video 3 pieces of advice, what would they be?
Well, I know that your work is you're working very focused way at the moment around teenagers. So I'll target it for the parent of a teenager who is looking for some answers. The very first thing, and this isn't, I'd love to claim this, but it's not mine. I don't even know where I got it, but it's such a good line. Be unshockable. Doesn't matter what your kids come to tell you. You can be freaking out on the inside, but on the outside, just look interested. That's all. Because if you look shocked with the first thing that they ever come to tell you, and your reaction is from that shock, that might be the last thing that you ever get to hear. And then parents always go, I don't understand why my kids won't talk to me. So be unshockable. The second thing would be maybe, I love this line too. I don't even know where I got this from. Never use a cannon when a water pistol will do. I love it because it says a chapter of a book in one sentence. Um, so often we want to go off the deep end because we think that the kids won't get it unless we really do a nana about it. But actually, a calm version of that conversation is going to get you much, much more in the way of, good outcomes.
Mm.
And the third one would just simply be keep your sense of humor about everything. If you can deal with something while you're both having a little bit of a laugh or at least a smile, or you can refer back to some of the hijinks that you once did, but you also want to point out the dangerous side of what they've just done. Keep it light. If you can have a laugh, it's so much the better. And one of the things I remember really strongly about my dad, he made lots of mistakes, but he could keep his sense of humour while he was dealing with things, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, not easy in the moment, but I guess the more we practice these things, the more we're able to move into that space a bit easily, bit more ease.
If you've never practiced, it's going to be super hard to begin with. If you even manage a moment of it, then pat yourself on the back. But if you can build those moments into a new autopilot, you'll never look back.
Yeah, I guess that's what a lot of it is. They're just learning new ways of being with our kids, and putting them into practice, and we'll learn those new pathways will get built into our thinking and our, let's say, our responses automatically.
I think that comment you just said about build new pathways or new autopilots, we're all a product of what we learned as kids. You know, our parents were all doing the best, but they weren't all equipped the same. So if you had parents that were super strict and now their voice is ringing in your ears when you're dealing with stuff, and you think, I'm going to come down hard on this because this kid will not learn if you don't do that, I can almost guarantee you that that's going to have some echoes into the future that you're not going to love dealing with. So if you can figure out a calm way, whether it's with yourself or with some coaching help, a calm, reasonable way to do your parenting, the benefits come back to you in spades.
Hey, look, so we've come to the end of our time, but if you want to contact Lisa McKimm, so you're saying that you do work face to face and if distance online as well.
Yeah, if they're close enough to Hamilton in New Zealand to come in and see me, make that the first choice. Second choice, great second choice, would be online coaching, and I have clients both here and overseas that do that.
Awesome. And how do people get in contact with you?
Well, they can come in through the website at Parenting Works. I think, are you going to pop that up somewhere so that it gets spelled correctly so everybody can find it? That's great. They can email me, lisa@parentingworks.co.nz, or they can give me a call on my phone number and I'll give you those details to pass on.
Great. I'll put those links in the bottom. And yeah, there is something else I'd like to talk to you about. So we'll do another session when we've got time, and we'll look forward to having you back to hear some more about things that you do with families.
Love it. Thank you. Thanks very much, Michelle.
Ka kite.